Welcome everyone, and I hope you can hear me. New microphone. And welcome back to the live at 7 p.m. on Tuesday nights with Jacqui. I'm Jacqui Lewis. I am the clinical nutritionist for BN Multi, and every week we meet here on the page and in the group, and I answer all of your questions regarding nutrition and life after surgery and any other questions that you've had. We get a range of different questions every week, which is fantastic. And this week we're going to cover, firstly, your questions. Secondly, we run competitions every week in the group that you might have been aware of. We have Transformation Tuesday. We also have like a nutritional quiz, and we choose some winners every week from each different special activity that we're running. And then this week I've got another guest on in the waiting room already, actually, and I have Dr. Antigone Kouris from Skinny Bic, and I'll introduce her a little bit later, but that's kind of the highlight of the session as far as I'm concerned. She's got many years of experience and has developed a fantastic range of snacky bickies that are guilt-free and pretty yummy. So I'll invite her in very shortly. So this week we've got a range of questions. The first one is from Megan Vlot, wondering whether she should be taking multivitamins while on a pre-op diet. There's two schools of thought. Why not be in the best nutritional shape you possibly can before you have an operation, which would also help your recovery. So really, we always do supplementation based on your blood test results. So looking at your pre-op schedule, generally you have a meeting with your dietitian and your surgeon where they'll take bloods and do a kind of a nutritional stock take. A lot of people go into surgery and they have a few different deficiencies. The main players are vitamin D, also iron, and also B12. And once you have the surgery, those are also the key nutrients that are affected and are hard to absorb forever. So what you might do is have a look at your blood test results that are current, and if there's any shortfall nutrients, things that are in the lower end of the healthy range, you could look at boosting those. And then generally with the pre-op diet, your pre-op shakes will have, they're based on the recommended daily intakes for healthy people. So generally you'll probably find those last 2 weeks or however long you're doing pre-op shakes for and changing your diet already, you will be boosting your nutrient intake. But I do encourage, if there are any shortfalls in iron, B12, vitamin D, to have those looked at. And yes, definitely use this period as an opportunity to catch up on any nutrients that are running low, because after surgery, if you go into surgery and you do have some deficiencies, they're much harder to catch up afterwards. And the research, not on weight loss surgery patients specifically, but there's an article I read on patients who'd had hip replacement surgery, and one group were given just a general multivitamin as part of their recovery, and the other group sadly were not. But the group that were supplemented and given the best nutritional opportunity for recovery had a much better, lower risk of complication and a much better recovery overall. So yes, definitely be as nutritionally fit as you possibly can when you're going in to have your operation, but never supplement anything that you don't need. That is because you can bring things up into the higher range, and that also has its own set of concerns. So always ask your dietitian if there's anything that you could be doing to catch up anything as well. Thanks. So Vicky Flaris just wrote one word, and it was exercise. Oh, my dog's crying. And every time I bring up exercise, I get a range of answers. So what I wanted to do with this one is, in the post that we're running right now, could you place your comments on what you'd like to know specifically about exercise? And that way I can, during the week, be a bit more targeted with your guidelines. So is it how to start exercising? Is it what type of exercise? Is it options for, better forms of exercise like weight training or cardiovascular training? Just a bit more info would be helpful. So if you can all put a comment in the group to let me know what kind of exercise guidance you would like, I can help you out with that for sure. So my next question is Michelle Mask Smith. Was told if she was drinking anything fizzy like soda water or Pepsi Max, that the likelihood of surgery failing over time increases. I wouldn't say that your surgery will fail. There's different reasons why you're discouraged from drinking fizzy drinks after surgery. One of them is that it's empty calories, which have zero nutritional benefit. The second one is that the fizz takes up space. So you're drinking liquid that's got air in it. There she goes. Look, out the door. Bye, Abby. And you're drinking liquid that's full of gas. So in a tiny little tummy, if you're pumping in liquid with carbonation that takes up room, you may find that you feel bloated, and it can lead to a feeling of discomfort. The other thing that happens is with the burping after gassy drinks, and if you're doing that too close to a meal, your chances of reflux are increased. So there's a whole lot of reasons why we don't encourage fizzy drinks. One of them is that they're not good for you. The other one is that the most pronounced reason for re-hospitalization after weight loss surgery is dehydration. So if you're not drinking enough water, it's not ideal. So looking at increasing your liquids, but making sure they're not calorie dense, and also that they're going to help you stay hydrated. So Coke and anything that's carbonated and caffeinated will be a diuretic, so they'll actually be adding to your dehydration. So I hope I've discouraged you gently enough. The other thing is that the zero Cokes and the zero sugar soft drinks also have artificial sweetener in them. And the research on that also has shown that people who are replacing sweet drinks with this artificial sweetening, there's actually a communication with the brain that it starts looking for the sugar. So do your own reading on your artificial sweeteners. So if you're still looking for that sweetness, I would suggest include more fruit in your diet. Look for natural ways of increasing that sweet sensation. But yeah, adding the artificial sweetness to everything, it gives you this kind of little mind trip that you don't want. Thank you for your question. So Vicky Parlane has asked, is the BN multi twice a day enough after bypass? Because my doctor has asked me to take an extra vitamin D and iron as I have low ferritin. And I really, I really wanted to avoid the black firm stools. So you will find our multis are formulated for maintenance. So if you start with a full bank account of nutrients and you put your little deposits in twice a day, you'll find that your bank balance will stay the same, because you're taking something out, but you're putting something in. So you're replacing the things that are missing. If you're starting out with maybe a deficiency in ferritin or vitamin D, like I said, even before surgery, so many patients are deficient in iron, vitamin D, and also a few other nutrients, B12 and calcium. So you will find there will be times that if you do need to catch something up, you take your multi twice a day, and whatever is in shortfall, you take that alongside until your bloods look good again. So the main one is iron. That about 50% of people fall low in iron, and it happens particularly for women due to blood loss through menstruation. And some patients also find that straight after surgery, because they're losing so much weight, there's a hormonal crises that goes on afterwards, and there can be a lot of bleeding. So there will be a lot of blood loss, which will be affecting your iron levels as well. So iron is the main one. And yes, you may need to take something alongside. You can try the liquid. There's a really good liquid iron in an orange box you'll find at the chemist. And it's got 100 milligrams of iron without all the tummy interference as well. You may get the black stool, but not the firm, stuck constipation stool. So I hope that helps you. We talk a lot about the ins and outs of our bodies on this live. So the next question is Gayleen. Had my surgery last November and was doing really well until I had a crisis in my life and I went back to bad habits, lots of comfort eating and chocolate eating. I'm sure it's an addiction and I'm really struggling with not having it. Stress is always going to bring up these previous habits and coping mechanisms, and they'll just be highlighted because you know now that you're not meant to be doing that, because your body will tell you that as well. When these sorts of things come up, it's looking at learning new coping mechanisms and helping yourself to manage stress, because it's always going to happen. So in these situations, I would definitely look at talking to somebody and finding out what this means to you. What does chocolate mean to you? What does food mean to you? What can you do in place? Is it love or comfort, or is it support, or is it when you're feeling lonely, that sort of thing? So like when I discussed with Amber Kay last week, all the different emotions that are linked to food, we need to identify and find another way. So often that's hard to do on your own. And I do suggest talking with someone who can help you work through those kind of management tools. It's recognizing the issues and seeing what's coming and actually having a plan for those times as well. So if you would like to reach out, I can certainly point you in the right direction. You could just send an email to support@bnmulti.com. And we've got connections with even Glenn McIntosh, Amber Kay. There's a few leaders in our area that are helpful with specific weight loss surgery, mindset and psychology. So please, if you're having trouble, anybody, you're welcome to email us at any time and we can help you, point you in the right direction. And thank you. And thank you for sharing that, because it does definitely help a lot of others, I think. 2 more questions. Lorraine has lost 40 kilos. Yes, but do almost no exercise. There you go. I was very athletic and a hockey player, but when I stopped, I put on a lot of weight. I'm 58 and I think, what will happen if I stop exercising in a few years? Will I put on weight all over again? So hesitating to begin. Should I begin? Yeah, definitely. Because exercise isn't just about weight loss. About 20% of your weight loss obviously would be linked to exercise. So we don't tend to exercise just for weight loss. And I think when you look at it like that, you're missing the biggest chunk of it, which is health. And the research shows that regular exercise prevents early death, basically. Tonifies your cardiovascular system, makes sure your heart's healthy, manages your mood, helps with depression, all sorts of things. And I would never encourage anyone to put off exercising because they might stop in a few years, because then you miss out on those few years. And I don't know also why people think they have to stop exercising, because it's a lifelong thing. And it's something that, people in their 80s still, they're proving as well. There's a lot more research into weight training and resistance training for people in nursing homes and the older senior generations, and showing just the amazing benefits it has on their bone density and their falls risk, and preventing those, hip fractures. And generally, if you're in your 80s and you have a hip fracture, it's generally something that will, lead to a much earlier death than you would expect. So never put off exercising. Just choose something that you like to do. And it's more about consistency than it is about intensity. Doing something every day, walking for half an hour, or, catching up with a friend, walking the dog, that sort of thing. It's social it's emotional, it's healthy, and it gets you outside, which a lot of us are low in vitamin D because we're just not going outside anymore. So I definitely wouldn't put it off. And again, if you want any more guidance on how to get started, I think I posted something in the group about getting started with exercise. So you could look that one up, or just let us know again if we can provide some more information. Thank you. Shirley Corcoran. I hope I'm getting all your surnames right. I'm terrible. How long can you keep the made up protein water for? Does it go off or lose the protein benefit? I actually asked the manufacturer about this. You can mix it and keep it in water for about 12 to 24 hours. After that, it's not that it loses its nutritional or its protein content. It's just not... it just goes a bit funny if it's been in the water for too long. So if you're planning on, putting it in your drink bottle in the morning before you leave for work and you'd finish it maybe in the afternoon, that's absolutely fine. The protein won't go anywhere. It doesn't lose any of its nutritional value. It's just more about how it feels, and the quality of the product, I suppose, can become affected as well. So those are the questions for this week. I hope that's been helpful. And then we're moving on to winners. Thank you all for everyone who answered the questions. Questions about iron, different minerals, also about what makes blood red, which was hemoglobin, what are vitamins, what are fat-soluble vitamins, where are they stored? Name 4 fat-soluble vitamins. How do water-soluble vitamins travel? I hope it, I just find it interesting. I'm a bit of a dork, but I hope you're finding that thinking about these things gives you a better understanding of how your body works and, what we need to get through the day in a healthy way. So we had quite a few entrants this week. No cut and paste, so I was pretty happy to see that. And we have winners of this one. We'll get our new, can you see that? There. This is a plastic measuring jug and it looks pretty boring until I show you the electronic part of it here. I'll just turn it on. So this bit, it obviously measures volume, so liquid. And when we're looking at portion management, we can use all the different cups and the different 1.5 litres. Then if you're using powders and flour and that sort of thing, it also weighs whatever you put in there. So I'm trying to get, that's a bit better. I've got 2 screens and I'm messing myself up with, see how I'm moving the weight as I'm pressing on it? So you can weigh your food as weight or you can measure it in liquid. And the winner of our little quiz this week was, finding it, the first winner is Erin Ryan. So we'll send that out to you, Erin. I think we probably have your address on file. So thank you for participating and thanks everybody else for your efforts. And we'll get one of those jugs out to you this week. They're on our website. I'm not sure how much they are, but they're a bargain. I'm sure they're a relatively reasonable price. But I think that's pretty handy, particularly when, all we're doing is looking at how much of everything we're eating. So thank you for participating in the game. And then the last prize we need to give away is for Transformation Tuesday. So again, we've had some amazing contributions to the feed and some just wonderful support. I see you all, backing one another and encouraging each other, and I think that's what it's all about. So I think so long as we keep the positivity up and, share our stories, I think it's a great benefit. So the winner of this week's Transformation Tuesday, and check this out. Oh, can you see that? This is our new Bluetooth body composition scale. So I've been banging on about it in the group. Everyone's talking about how much they weigh and how sad they are when they start exercising and putting on weight because they're still weighing. So this scale has an app that goes with it and it connects to your phone. So when you hop on the scale, you put in your details. age and your sex, and it will tell you what you weigh. But not only that, it tells you how much body fat you've got, how much your skeleton weighs, how much water you've got on board. So I'm always talking about body composition, not body weight. So if you're looking at your progress and you're a very active type of person, you're putting on muscle and you're becoming a fitter body rather than a fatter body, you'll find that muscle weighs about 3 times as much as fat. So if you're increasing your muscle levels and losing weight fat-wise, you could also end up weighing more. So that's why we look at composition. And this is why the scales are fabulous. So the winner of this week's Transformation Tuesday is Jade. All these hard last names this week. Nyhuis Bartz. I don't know how to say that. Nyhuis Bartz. 7 months post-op and has lost about, she's gone from 118 kilos to 75 kg. And I wish I could show you the photos. You'll have to look them up in a group. But looking very fit, looking like she's exercising quite a lot and getting out there, which is great. Thanks, everyone, for all your help and support. She says the journey's not over, but it's just begun. So well done, Jade. And we'll also, if you can email us your details, we will send you some scales. And I'd love your feedback too. Just let us know what your thinking is. So that's me for tonight. The next thing I'm going to do, one sec. I think you can see out the door now because the dog went out, is invite into our live our very special guest, Dr. Antigone Kouros. Dr. Antigone is a clinical dietitian. She works in private practice in Melbourne. She has over 30 years of experience. She specialises in diabetes and gut disorders and also with thyroid issues as well. She was one of the first researchers to study the health diet, the Mediterranean diet in the 1990s. She's co-author of 7 university nutrition textbooks, and she is an adjunct associate professor at La Trobe University and has been conducting research into lupins, which takes us into talking about lupins. I think you've probably all heard about them. We sell some lupin soups in our group, and you can see in our kind of realm, we're starting to use lupins, and there must be good reason for that. And so I'm going to ask Antigone to explain that for us. And finally, 10 years ago, she developed Skinny Bic. And I've got so many things to show you tonight. Here are the Bics. They've just been reformulated and they've been repackaged, and she's going to talk to us all about that. So without further ado, I've just got to get my mouse in the right spot. Here we go. I'll let her in. Are you there? Yes, here she comes. I've got one screen in the way. Hi. Are you there?
Hi there.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
That's good. I'm moving my computer around like a mad woman because I've got you up on a different screen, but I'm getting there. Welcome and thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you. I've never done one of these before, so thank you for introducing me to.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'm becoming a technical every day. Every week I change something, so I'm always messing around with something new. So I'm a bit new to it all as well. So welcome and thank you. And I've just introduced you. Could you hear what I was saying before I let you in, or do you wait until is it not live for you?
No, I wasn't listening to, I wasn't on my phone listening to you. So yeah. No.
I've done the honors of introducing you. Thank you. Your incredible history of, experience in the nutrition world.
Yes, I've been involved in lots of different projects over the last 30 years.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
What was your most favoured area? What have you enjoyed the most about your career so far?
Working on the Mediterranean diet was a lot of fun, and I got to interview lots of people. for my PhD, and then I was involved in an international study, so where we interviewed Japanese people in Japan, Swedes, Anglo-Celts, even Aboriginal Australians. I was sent up to the Kimberleys to find out about what they eat. This is the older age group, so it was an elderly study.
Yeah.
So it's been a really great career, really, for me.
Yeah, that's fascinating, and it's been such a success. It's one of the most, I guess, clinically proven to have such benefits for health. I think it's something that'll be around for a long time.
It will be, yes.
Yeah, and so tell me about your bickies. We've got some here.
I've
got them upside down.
Oh yes, thank you for promoting them.
There we go. I love them. I snack on them, to be honest.
Do you?
They're pretty good. Yeah.
So lupin has a really interesting history because it is very much entrenched in the Mediterranean diet, especially on the Greek islands. Like my family come from Crete.
Right.
So quite a large Greek island. I don't know if you're aware of it, but they do eat lupins there as a snack.
Do they?
They eat them raw. They put them in brine, and the salt gets rid of the bitterness in the lupin, and then they just eat them as a snack. With an ouzo and with some artichokes in brine. It's incredible. That's their snack in the afternoon.
Really?
Yeah.
And tell me about the health benefits. What's so good about these lupins that are sneaking into our diet?
So they've got a lot more protein than other legumes, so about double the amount.
Right.
They also have a lot more fibre as well and a lot less carbs. So they really are kind of a superfood. And the other good thing about lupins is that they don't have any anti-nutritional factors.
Right.
I don't know if that makes sense to people. For example, you've probably heard of lectins and phytates and trypsin inhibitors. These are found in other legumes. And what they essentially do is they block the absorption of vitamins and minerals from the pulse, from the legume. So we're not actually accessing all the vitamins and minerals that are found in pulses, except lupin. So lupin doesn't have these anti-nutritional factors. So all the nutrients are highly bioavailable. So that's a very big plus.
Yeah, definitely. Especially because iron is the main thing that also phytates will block, which we're absolutely trying not to do that in our community because iron deficiency is so rife that, if we can bring something in that's high in protein, it's the perfect kind of weight loss surgery food, really, higher in protein, low in carbs, and, helpful on many levels. So.
Exactly. So the zinc is also very well absorbed because a lot of people run, low zinc levels as well.
Yeah. And
also lupins don't have any phytoestrogens. Not that phytoestrogens are bad, but some people just don't want to eat phytoestrogens. So whereas soy, as we know, are very high in phytoestrogens. And also we can eat them raw. So you can actually eat lupin flour uncooked. Whereas you can't do that for any other pulse flour. You can't do that with soy. You have to cook it. You have to cook soy flour. And even after you've cooked it, it still has quite high levels of phytates. So lupin doesn't have these issues. So I get quite a few of my patients to add lupin flour directly into their smoothies. So, without having to cook it, which is wonderful.
Gee, that's value, isn't it? Yeah. And is lupin flour readily available in Australia? Is it a specialty food, or where would you generally direct people to go and buy that?
So it's interesting because in the Mediterranean, they consume it mainly as a whole bean snack. On some islands, they mill it into a flour and they might mix it into bread and so on. In Australia, it's mainly available as a flour. So it's grown in New South Wales and Western Australia, and then it's milled into a flour, and it's mainly available through health food shops. I don't understand why it's not in the supermarket because you can get all sorts of flours now, quinoa flour, lentil flour, but why not lupin flour? I don't get it. I really don't.
And I wonder where they're growing those here and how easily obtainable they are in the Australian agricultural system, perhaps. Do you know much about that?
Yeah, I do. They've been around for about 80 years. Initially, they were given to animals as, animal fodder because they're so nutritious, and it actually improved the fertility of the sheep when they ate lupin. So that tells you something about how good lupins are for health. But yes, they are very highly available throughout New South Wales and Western Australia. So I don't think we have a supply issue I do
Yeah.
think there's maybe people just don't know what it is. It's not selling, therefore supermarkets don't stock it.
Yeah, just the demand. So yeah, we see chickpea like basam flour and that sort of thing. And I think that's more for different ethnic groups, Indian and that sort of thing, who enjoy cooking with chickpea flour, and they're quite a specialist kind of area. So perhaps we should all lobby at the supermarket to get them to bring in the lupins.
That's right. And I see quite a lot of Indian patients who come in with diabetes and elevated blood sugars, and they've put on a lot of weight in Australia. And I get them to replace half of their wheat flour in the chapati with lupin flour. And it's better than Bazan flour, because Bazan flour has got a lot more starch than lupin flour. So it really does help them lose weight just by dropping the carb content of their chapatis dramatically with the lupin.
That's amazing. You've done a lot of research to formulate your good bickies, and we can talk about flavors and that sort of stuff in a moment. But tell me, how did you get to this in the end? In a long time in the making.
It's a long story, very long story. So, I mean, I'm a little bit obsessed with legumes because when I did my PhD in the 1990s, one of my students analysed the data that we collected from all the different ethnic groups that I mentioned, the Japanese, the Swedes, and so on. And we looked at all the food groups and what was the most predictive food group for extending one's life. And it was legumes. Legumes came out trumps as being the most important food group for extending your life expectancy. So I became quite obsessed with legumes. So all along I've been trying to promote legumes to my patients and trying to find sneaky ways to get them to eat legumes. Because legumes are popular.
That's how nutritionists are. They're sneaky.
Yeah, very sneaky. That's right. So Australians don't really like legumes, or they don't know how to cook them. They like their baked beans, but it kind of stops there, and they're not sure what to do with them. So I had this idea, maybe, putting them into snack foods might be the way to go. So that was kind of ideas floating around in my head. And then I was challenged by one of my patients because she kept hammering me for biscuits. She kept saying, can you recommend a good biscuit? And I said, no, I'm not really happy with anything that's out there. It's either too low in fibre or too high in saturated fat. So I couldn't commit to a biscuit. And a lot of people like biscuits. They like to have one with a cup of tea or coffee.
Yeah.
So then she challenged me, and that was, she got me going. She goes, why don't you're the expert. Why don't you come up with your own range? And I'm stubborn and I'm proud. I said, okay, I'm going to do it. So this was 10 years ago, and it wasn't as easy as I thought, because to remove, sugar and carbs and up the protein, all those things, we don't realise how important they are when you are trying to make a biscuit.
Yeah.
So it took 2 years of formulations, thousands of biscuits.
I'm sure your family have eaten enough bickies to last them their lifetime.
That's right. I'm surprised they're still eating my biscuits. Hate them by now, but no, they're still eating them. It took a couple of years, and I did experiment with my patients. My poor patients were my guinea pigs. Are eating all the different flavours. So that was 10 years ago, and this is my second reformulation. So just a few weeks ago, I decided to launch a new formula, and the new formula has got more lupin, just to make sure everybody gets their lupin, and less sugar than my original. Right. Yeah, because yes, sorry.
And flavours, what have you got there? How many different types?
So we've got 3 flavours. So there's cocoa and dark chocolate chip. And I've used a natural cocoa, which is undutched, which means it's got more antioxidants. It hasn't been treated with alkaline to get rid of the bitterness. So it's more of a natural cocoa. That's the first flavour. The second flavour is cranberry and coconut. And the third one is date and butterscotch. Yeah. So they're made with wholemeal flour, except for the cocoa one. My diehard chocolate biscuit patient said to me, the wholemeal is ruining it. So I had to remove the wholemeal from that one, but the other 2 have the wholemeal in there. And I've used dried fruit, but not a lot. So cranberries and dates for the sugar. Although they're still very low in sugar. They're under a gram of sugar per biscuit.
See, there you go.
So it's very low. And the carb content is also low. We're looking at about 3 grams or 2.5 grams per biscuit.
Per biscuit, yeah. So
the
mid-afternoon, that's a non-guilty snack, isn't it, really?
Yes, absolutely. We know that lupin is a natural appetite suppressant. There is something about lupin that seems to suppress appetite. Studies have shown that lupin does seem to help regulate blood sugars a little bit better. And also it contains a unique protein that's not found in other legumes, which is called gamma congluten.
Right.
And that interferes, or not interferes, but it works on the insulin receptor and makes your insulin receptors more receptive to sugar, so that the sugar goes into the cell where it's used rather than staying out in the blood where it gets converted to body fat. We don't want sugar in the blood, we want sugar in the cells. So lupin helps to do that, whereas the other legumes are also diabetes friendly, but they lack this protein, the gamma congluten. So we think that's what lupin, it gives them the edge over blood sugar regulation. And that's what we found in our study, because we did subject the biscuits to a clinical trial at La Trobe, and we fed them to people with diabetes in hospital. And we compared them to similar macronutrient biscuits that were low in sugar and not too high in carbs. But it was the lupin biscuits that seemed to regulate blood sugars, not the other biscuits. Even though they had similar amounts of sugar, they were lacking the lupin. So, so lupin does seem to have a beneficial effect. Yeah, and on our appetite. Our diabetics said to us that they weren't as hungry on the lupin day compared to the other days when they ate the other biscuits. Yeah.
They've got a lot going for them, and they taste good. So mid-afternoon, there's 2 little bickies in a pack. And how many calories in the one packet?
So it's under 99 calories. So it's about 48 calories per biscuit. And you can actually have 4 for breakfast, because that adds up to about 200 calories. Yeah. And that will keep you full for hours. It's really quite amazing. So I call them the Mediterranean biscuit to some degree, because the ingredients have been inspired by the Mediterranean, with the lupin being in there. And also I've used oat bran, I've used the wholemeal flour in 2 of them as well. Lots of almond meal as well. So they've got that really nice,
that dense flavour.
Dense, moist texture. So, good
on you. It's been a lot of work. And one more question. If people want to find out more about Skinny Bic and about you, are you doing consultations at the moment with patients? Are you more doing research? How are you operating it? And everyone's changed. Everyone's morphing and reinventing themselves. But what's the structure of your day generally, if people wanted to find you?
Oh, look, I mainly consult with patients these days. I'm not doing as much research or lecturing. I'm a guest lecturer at La Trobe, and I've got a PhD student, but I'm mainly consulting with patients. So I'm doing face-to-face in Murrumbina, in Victoria, and I'm also doing quite a few phone consultations. So, I've got a website. You can look me up, Prof. Kouris Nutrition. Look me up there, and also I'm listed on the Skinny Bic website as well. You can get to me through that website.
I'll also post your details in the underneath the post here as well, so if anybody wants more information. We also have the Skinny Bic bickies on our website, so they're just a great addition to your general ordering. We'll add your 3 months of multis and top it up with some bickies. Thank you so much. And I'm sure we haven't heard the last from you. I'll make sure of that.
Oh, thank you.
And I hope you've enjoyed our live session. It is a bit of fun, and it's Tuesdays at 7. So I had, who did I have last week? Amber Kay. She did she does a lot of mindset work, the Get Back on Track program and the Fresh Start program for bariatric patients as well. And in the next couple of weeks, I've got some special guests, and I'm doing some incredible 2-week reset myself, which I'll talk about in the weeks to come as well. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And we'll hear from you soon. Thanks, Antigone.
Thank you.
Take care.
Antigone. Bye.
Antigone.
That's all right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And I'm going to disappear too. Have a good week.